hand you over for the last time today to the dynamic duo of Gio and Ollie. Take it away, guys.
Thank you so much, Tim. The LATAM train really doesn't stop for anyone, and it is continuing to chew its way on down. MIBR versus W7M now for our viewing pleasure. Consulate will be the map. Thatcher and Nomad already removed. Who is going to be the first defender ban? Amalusi. Okie dokie.
Haven't seen many of those bans in the last couple of days. Again, that's one of those things that you look to in other regions and you say, yeah, I can imagine that. I can picture that happening. But here in Brazil, haven't seen much of that. But the Wamai is something that we have seen quite a bit of. If I remember correctly, when Liquid played earlier, Mute was that other defender ban alongside the Wamai, which was a little bit more specialized. We spoke about how that can have an effect when you want to hold on to particularly the public bathroom on that middle floor for a, whether it's a basement hold you're doing, whether it's a lobby hold you're doing. Quite relevant on either of those. I'm expecting, however, this game to have quite a different approach / playstyle to what we saw when Liquid played earlier today.
I would imagine that to be the case. Already we're seeing slight nuances in the operators selected, the operators banned as well. Malusi has seen a hell of a high pick rate, so it really isn't much of a surprise to see her go here in this one. Someone that MIBR played quite a bit yesterday as well. 6 picks galore there in the prep phase, as we did see a clash baited but then switched out. We have got quite the interesting attacker lineup. I'd argue that there's maybe 4 attackers there, maybe 3 with the exception of IQ, that you just wouldn't necessarily expect to see all in the same round.
Yeah, I mean, so you mentioned the IQ. Because Valkyrie hasn't been banned out, it's a bit more understandable why she's been brought along. You want to be looking for the black eye cams. It really helps with that, especially on a map like this where jump outs and run outs are quite a risk. But yes, the Nook, the Lion, and the Twitch, not super typical. You'll occasionally see a Twitch be brought along, especially if you want to be getting rid of things like mirror windows, but there isn't a mirror being brought. There aren't bandit batteries to get rid of. You could use them to get rid of pests and electro claws, I suppose, and actually damage the evil eyes as well. So she certainly has her uses, just not that typical, because the main reason why you don't see operators like this is usually because there are just other operators who are more likely. I think the most notable here is that you don't have a dedicated soft breach to open up the piano floor. Yes, IQ can bring along those breaching rounds, which she has done. But other than that, you don't really have something like a Sledge or a Buck or even an Ashel Zafir. It's very obscure.
I'm intrigued by W7M's utility usage there, because they've just used a smoke grenade to give the Twitch drone enough cover to get in and actually remove that Electroclaw, and it's actually worked out quite well for them. They've now got drones fairly deep on in the site. The garage wall's been open, and they can look to start pressing some sort of an advantage. This take is going really well for them, but you've got to question the operators that they're bringing and why they're choosing to bring Nook and stuff like that if they're just going to sit outside the garage wall, because as we can see, it isn't doing them all too well. They're going to try and get the plant down. The Lion scan to cover. Panico tanks a full C4, and it is going to be confirmed. Is he going to get away? No, not quite. Raps comes in and takes him out at the top of White Van. Guai in, well, not a great situation. He has the Lion, he has the ability to know the location and the whereabouts, and the ability to take off Fal's head. Gets himself embroiled in some engagements, but it is not going to be enough. Raps comes in, final kill, and I think we maybe have a slight bit of a feed issue, so we may come back to us, but MIBR, they're going to take round number 1.
I think despite the fact that W7M were pretty good at getting the plant down, it was everything outside of that. Generally, when you're looking to make a plant, and especially if you're looking to make a swift plant, you want to have a decent setup for the post-plant situation, particularly if you've left a lot of the defending players alive, because you know that they're going to want to push forward and they're going to have some chance of making that work for themselves. But W7M didn't do that. They didn't have some kind of post-plant really set up to deal with that. They just kind of threw everything in through the garage door. They planted, and then it was like, oh, yeah, we need to have a plan after this. And they just didn't have one. And so they just left Guy outside on his own. And that's a really not a position that's going to work that well for anyone. It doesn't really matter who you are. So that was kind of an oversight, maybe from W7M. It was just a strange course of decision making, if you ask me.
We are now back into the game. I agree with what you're saying, Gio. And the decision making starts in the operator phase. That's where the weird decision-making started for him, because that's what led them to be in such an unfavourable position. They've changed things up a little bit now, and we've got a sledge coming in instead of the knock, and there's a fear there as well. So a little bit more typical of a lineup, should we say. The Lion can be brought, but honestly, it didn't look like something that MIBR were too fearful of. That might be because they had a bit of a man count advantage for a large portion of the round and weren't too concerned about giving up the location for only a brief couple of seconds.
They're still pretty keen to stick with the Lion, actually, and maybe this time they'll actually get an opportunity to use it to their advantage, get some of that information on where the defenders are. Particularly if you're looking for players like, I'm thinking off traders and Philippox, who are more likely to be running around a bit more. You might be able to pick them off quite early. In fact, when we think back to the clubhouse game that MIBR played against Furia yesterday, Traders was involved in a lot of the opening engagements and actually had a positive opening KD at 4-2, so +2 for him. So it wouldn't surprise me to see something very similar happening again today.
Hertz has managed to get himself quite well established on these yellow stairs on the IQ and can gather a heck of a lot of information. Nice line of sight all the way down the corridor as well. Maybe looking to hold off this flank that could be materializing from Philippox. We've got Reduct down underneath as well inside a piano. He's of course got a C4 ready and waiting. Any intel? That's going to be the key thing here. Reduct goes for the swing, but he isn't quite anticipating the push. Just Herds come in, picks up that first kill, and a second onto Philippox. The turn and burn is real. And all of a sudden, MIBR are at a two-man disadvantage. A Lion scanner is going to come and pinch even tighter. Herds not sitting on a great deal of health, but the damage at this point has largely been done, as that's going to be 2 C4s out of action out of 3 on the side of MIBR.
Really nice control still here, sustained by MIBR onto long desk. That will make it harder for W7M to push forward, regardless of which side it is they intend to push into. There's one over on CEO Rappel, however, which may be something they have to deal with. But right now, the focus is on this player who is in bathroom. You can see the huge impact hole that has been opened into that wall, and they know that these players will be looking to push in now that we're in the final 20 seconds. The man advantage is going to hurt them, and you can see the lifelines coming in to try and clear out that utility. Kurt's going in for the plant behind the CEO desk. MIBR have to try and push forward, but they won't be able to if their players keep getting picked off, and that's exactly what it looks like as Padrin gets the 2 kills. Padrin, however, DBNO'd, and it's all down to Falls. He has been showing up pretty heavily for MIBR, getting 1 kill. That's the headshot onto Kurtz, but he's still got 4 more to get. It could be quite a tall task for him. He can't complete it. Caught out in a crossfire as he moves on forward, and W7M get round number 2.
Herds with a 3k on the round, going pretty big on the IQ. Doing a great job of just systematically taking apart MIBR there. There wasn't really any opportunity for MIBR to get into the action. They just seemed to be losing gunfight after gunfight, and it all really stemmed from just a sheer lack of yellow stairs control. They just didn't have any at any point within the round. It seemed to be the first place on Herds' list to get himself in, and from that point onwards, it was just a place where he was also then going to get a lot of kills because of how lightly it was being held by MIBR. But 1 round in either direction so far, as we do seem to be shaping up to have a bit of a game on our hands. If anyone was here for yesterday's broadcast, you will remember that the last game did go all the way with teams trading 1 round apiece. I'm wondering if we are going to see a similar story develop here.
You never know. I am having war flashbacks of that FaZe Clan game. That really was something. And we haven't seen any overtime today yet, so I don't know. You never know. Maybe this is the one. This will be what it is. And of course, we haven't seen W7M on the English broadcast yet. If you watched the Portuguese broadcast back in week number 1, you will have seen them play. They played against Santos Esports back in week number 1, but we haven't had them on the English broadcast. So for all of you viewers who are just here for the English speaking side of things, this will be your first time seeing them in this stage. So it's going to set a nice precedent for what we can expect going forward. So far, it hasn't been terrible. Their first round was a bit bizarre, but they're sticking with the more normal-ish attacking lineup this time round. So I think they've learned their lesson from that.
Seems to be a very slow start, has been the norm in this game so far, as W7M do seem to like to take a bit of time to get themselves established. And let's face it, why not? Not doing too badly with it, with the exception of the first round, which it seems as though they've gone for quite a polar opposite change in terms of their operators. It gets more normal as the rounds progress. Now we're into, like, this is fairly expected operator lineup here for Consulate. And in round number 1, we were having like a knock and all sorts of crazy things. They do seem to be toning it back as we get further and further into this game. Searching out a bit of utility there. Just not quite going to be able to destroy it with the first, but the second was that second one miss as well. I'm not sure if that Evil Eye has survived or not, but if it has, it's going to be a bit of a big blow. Erd's trying to get himself on this West Rappel. Nice little upside down angle. Gives him opportunity to peek all the way down into Long Desk and of course through into Connector as well.
Some nice progress being made by W7M. Don't forget, of course, that the site is downstairs. We're not on an upstairs site. So they're still yet to clear out these roamers, 2 of which are up on this top site. Kurtz has dropped down. He's the one carrying the diffuser. Now, he's been able to successfully plant so far twice. So W7M, very objective focused, and MIBR still holding on to these angles and the routes of ingress that they will have in as they begin to move down towards where the site is. Someone hasn't picked up their Rook armor.
It's you know, it's war crime sort of stuff that you've got to be picking up your Rook
come
armor.
on.
I think I'd hope at this point that one of the W7M guys would actually come in and pick that armor up, you know, just to make sure that that plate got used, even if it was going to be getting used by an attacker.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. At least, at the very least, we know it's not Philippox, because you can see the little symbol saying that he's wearing his Rook armor. So he's doing good from that. It's also going to be holding on to the anti-chamber window. You can see that the flashes are being thrown in to try and burn the ADS present in the bathroom. W7M are quite low on time at this point, though, and they haven't fully cleared anything out. Falls is still present upstairs in meeting, and you know there's the hatch still in there, so that's going to make it very hard to plant. He does actually get a kill onto Hertz as the first one, and this is when they're going to start coming on through. The Toxic Babe canisters also deterring those attackers. Kurt's trying to make the jump in. He knows that there'll be a player in bathroom, but he's protected by a shield. MIBR adding to the kill count twice over, and that means just Panico and Guy are the last 2 remaining on W7M, but it looks like they're going to run out of time. Very little that Panico can do here. Maybe finish off with a kill, but he couldn't even complete that. MIBR take round number 3.
MIBR there with the fight back, as W7M, for all accounts, had quite a slow and steady attacking round. Both teams really seem to be struggling to inject their sort of pace into this game, and it's something you'd expect MIBR to be setting a little bit more, but I do just wonder if the free agent is maybe coming to hurt them ever so slightly. They do just seem to be struggling to get out there and to really set the pace on defense, as we've seen, well, previously tonight, and as you would expect to see. Oh, I'm excited about that, Gio. A clash. We go from a vigil onto a clash. It's the 2 polar opposites of one another, and we're going down to Garage.
This could be interesting because MIBR don't really have much of an idea of what W7M will do, because I think it's probably quite clear to them that it's unlikely W7M will attempt what they did before with the Nook, with the Lion, with the Twitch, what was it they brought? In fact, this time they're bringing something, they've been getting more and more orthodox as time has gone on, because now they actually have an Ashe and a Zephyr and a Sledge, which are all things that you would like to see, particularly attacking onto this site where you want to have that vertical pressure, you want to be able to take control of the yellow stairs, you want to have the soft breach and the ability to remove utility. Something W7M really failed before, and despite the fact that they got down the diffuser, they didn't really have a plan for after that. MIBR, however, bringing the clash really throws a spanner in the works, because W7M are going to have to use some of that utility to deal with her. Probably things like the lifeline, for example, which is quite common to down Clash's shield, and it distracts some of their attention away from what they could otherwise be doing if she were not there.
Seems as though MIBR have really got the fear of this rush plant, or at least a plant being attempted again, because it was something that W7M managed to pull off quite successfully, despite their janky operator lineup. They were able to get the plant down, and they were able to hold it for a time, but it wasn't quite for long enough. Now, Fleapox on the Clash, it's going to be increasingly more difficult to get in and try and get a plant down. We can see we've got intel on where he is at the moment, but it's going to be Herds that leads the charge, as he does manage to take down Reduct. Going to be a C4 gone. Valkyrie now resigned to the cameras. Herds looks to take the advantage that he has just gained and push his way into CEO, checking out, see what's going on long desk. I'm not sure if he knows where Off Trades is inside of the connector and meeting room. The drones will shortly tell him. He just acts cool, makes it seem as though he's not spotted him out, but I'm sure Off Trades knows that it's time possibly to be dropping that hatch and to hold on to Clash's pocket.
I mean, you're over halfway through the round at this point. I usually determine the point past which it's a good idea to rotate is usually that 1 minute 30 mark. And some teams prefer to hold on longer, but that's the point where you know you've done your job. First kill coming out from Falls, and that's with a C4 as well, straight onto the Ashe. Herd's no longer a part of this, and you're going to be lacking some of that destructive ability that she would have brought. Traders are still holding on to the top floor, and at this point, W7M are going to be wondering what to do, because as time's ticking down, they know they haven't cleared him out, but they know they need to be focusing their attentions downstairs.
This is the best position to be in as a roamer. I agree with what you say about the halfway point in the round, but if you make it to this point where there's 40 seconds left, now's the time to strike, and he's going to take the opportunity. What Panico shuts him down. There's a quick headshot. We'll see that Off Trades is taken out of action. Wasted a ton of time, but didn't quite have the impact that he was after in the dying few stages. But now what that does is it leaves his teammates a little bit short-handed on the site. We're seeing more pressure coming in now from Kurtz as the backside also is being pushed. Fouls will fall. Smoke is going to cover the inevitable plant as Fleapox tries his best to get himself in position, drawing out for the pistol. Is he going to be able to make anything happen here? It'd be a huge clutch on the Clash, but no, the recoil isn't kind and the plant will be confirmed. He does, however, find the kill onto Kurtz, but is now left guessing. He doesn't know where the remaining players of W7M are as he pre-fires desperately over onto security hallway, trying to make something happen. The yellow ping's actually quite good, or at least it was. It's still good. Get the pre-fire on. He goes for it, and he does find the headshot. This is actually quite doable now. 21 seconds left remaining. Panico all the way upstairs. Not a great deal of health. The Clash shield is going to be his friend in this situation. Can he find a favourable angle? That's the big question here. He's going for the bait. He's going for the switch. But no, unfortunately, Panico makes it work. He holds that top floor, holds his nerve, finds the headshot, and W7M grab what was a guaranteed round and turned into a very close one.
Disappointing there for MIBR as well, given the fact that that was a really good streak there from Fleapox. And I was thinking it must be so arduous to be so loud and heavy, desperately running around with an SMG to try and find all the kills you need. But at that point, if they're holding up, if the attackers are holding up on the floor above you, they have the vertical angles in, and you're running out of time to even attempt to disable the diffuser, there's really only so much you can do with that. But here's some of those kills from Fleapox. It was a great way of getting that kill onto the yellow stairs, and really unfortunate that he missed out underneath the white van. And as you mentioned, those yellow pings, they were pretty good. But it just wasn't enough because Panico was upstairs, and that's the point at which you think, wow, if only Tradus hadn't have dropped down when he did, or hadn't got caught out.
Don't even do that to me, Gio.
Dude, he would have been able to deal with that perfectly, and that would have been MIBR's round.
Don't even do that to me. Off trades, drops the hatch, gets the headshot onto Panico. All of a sudden, it's a different outcome entirely. Yep. It's not to put anything on Off Trades' shoulders. It's a 50-50. You drop the hatch, you take your chance. He'd done a great job of wasting a ton of time, and it was the plant that was the win condition there for W7M and really reversing that clock. But boy, oh boy, was it a close one. It was so close, in fact, that W7M and MIBR fancy another go at the same site. Now, no real changes here. We're still seeing the clash coming from Felipox. He's making his little signature holes. We've seen him do a lot of work with that SMG and not just the shield. I think if he's going to be bringing the clash, let's fast forward a little bit to what we could be looking at a little bit further on into the round, and that is that clash shield is going to be a really good tool to try and stop the plant from going down. Now, if the upstairs control can be maintained or at least threatened a little bit more heavily, it might give him the security to play a little bit further up, a little bit closer to that white van on Clash's shield.
I'm actually really intrigued by the way they've set up the public bathroom on the first floor, because they've reinforced the hatch, but they've opened up the walls as if they want to be holding line of sight into the yellow stairs and piano. Trader's getting the first kill. That's a nice start. And once again, it's on to Hertz, who's been caught in some of those opening engagements on the unfavorable side a couple of times. And it being that early means that he's not going to be able to provide much use with his gadget. Nice kill back in return, though, of Traders being the death on that side, but Panico too. And he was the one who had power at the end to hold the vertical angles that were required. So despite the fact that MIBR have lost a player for themselves, maybe that will have changed the fate in and of itself.
Certainly could do. Don't forget you've lost the nades on Panico, as well as that easy ability to open up a lot of the flooring inside of piano. So there has been quite a lot lost there in terms of utility. Of course, IQ scanner can never be ignored either. Those Valkyrie cameras should be a touch safer, at least from scanner's eyes. Obviously, you can still spot them out manually, but it does take a little bit more time. I think the main portion of pressure and control now is going to be trying to keep that breach closed. And you can already see that Kurtz is thinking about a bit of a rotate here, because he's recognised, look, we've lost the sledge, we've lost the IQ. We don't have a really easy guaranteed way of getting the electrification off that wall. Now it's going to be much more difficult for them. We can see Padron trying to make something happen at the top of those rear stairs. And Kurtz is looking, look, I'm going to have to try and open the hatch and do something here, because ultimately it's just going to be a bit of a hard push through the bottom of yellow stairs, which looks as though that's what it could be accumulating in. Trying to remove the electrical there. He's going to be doing all of the hard work inside of this round, and just look at how little much time remains. 30 seconds is all that stands between this and being an MIBR win. The clash is also rotated up, but a great rotation kill onto Reduct there. The wall now has been opened, but Kurtz has opted for an alternate line of attack. It isn't going to matter because the diffuser is now cold on yellow. Raps shut him down, and I'm sure, oh no, it's not Raps, it's actually Falls, sorry, to pick up that last kill. I really thought the Aldo was going to go brr there.
Very difficult position for W7M to actually be in for a lot of that round. I think once they were put in the 4 versus 5 situation, everything was working against them. Kurtz was trying to make a lot of decisions. We saw him come down yellow stairs, and he got rid of the Electro Claw, which alerts it alerts MIBR to what some of his intentions are. He ran straight out of the yellow door, maybe tried to open that. You still had Padron upstairs, but he noticed that Valk cam very late, which meant that all that information could have been passed on to MIBR. And despite the fact that he got rid of it, they still had a lot by that point. And that's one of the disappointing things about having lost Hertz so early, who was on the IQ, because it meant that you didn't have that. And I have to wonder if the reason that they've switched the IQ onto Guy off of Hertz is because if Hertz is going to be consistently caught out in opening engagements, they want to ensure that they still have IQ's gadget available to them later on.
Yeah, I think part of that as well is that They're realizing that maybe Lion isn't as necessary as they first perhaps thought. I think he was pretty much a constant pick in the first 3 rounds, maybe 4. And then all of a sudden we saw this shift into a much more predictable lineup. Now that is stereotypical. Yeah, you're playing Consulate and there's a Valkyrie on the other team. I am 100% back in that lineup. It's a far cry from what they started using in terms of like the nuke and all that sort of stuff that W7M started the game bringing, but they've found themselves a little bit of something that could work for them. Now, big question, can they find another round here? It's round number 6, the last round of the current phase, the last round of those guys on attack. What are they going to be able to do differently here? Because they've seen a mixed bag of success, as we can see. It's 3 versus 2. It isn't a great, you know, there's not a big disparity inside of that scoreline. It really has come down to some quite important key kills that are coming on in the early parts of the round, and someone that's usually on the right end of those is off trades.
Well, back in round 3, W7M were very insufficient at being able to clear out this top floor and the players that were holding it. And most notably, that was Foles in meeting, who was also on the Maestro at the time as well. A run out from Felipox. Ooh, he nearly gets cursed, but actually that just goes straight back. Yeah, having the MPX versus the AK-12 is going to have a very different effects once you're prey knows that they are being preyed upon. It was a ballsy attempt, but it does put MIBR at a disadvantage now. But back to the point I was making is just that W7M didn't get that done fast enough, and it meant that they had to make the decision to rotate down at a point where they knew that they were leaving those key defenders upstairs, and that's something they have to avoid this time.
W7M are circling like sharks here on the site, and it seems as though Raps is feeling the pinch. You can see like with a screen shake there, it's because he's trying to force his way right into that corner as far as he desperately can go, because he knows the angles that are going to be worked against him in this position. Reed up there just going to place a pocket ADS, see if he can secure his location there, just the other side of circle desk. A lot of pressure coming out here on the repels. Interestingly, no Nomad being brought here, so there is the potential for a bit of a cheeky run out here if MIBR feel as though that could switch things into their favour. Instead,
well,
it looks as
it didn't
though...
when Felipox tried it.
Well, that's it. It didn't work for Felipox, but he did have the MPX, and he was going for like a 100-yard run-out shot, which is never going to work all too well.
No.
But Redux comes in and he finds a nice, solid kill there over onto Herds, and can just take a moment to breathe. It looks as though reasonable site control has been maintained here by MIBR, but Raps has decided, you know what, I fancy a little bit of a leg stretch. I'm going to get myself up onto that top floor and see if we can work down vertically, and that might just be the order of the day. 10 seconds or so left remain as Guide starts to make his entrance. Padre from the other side looking to try and have some sort of an impact, but he's a little bit late to the party in all honesty, because the kills have already started to fly. It's Raps and Redux to shut things down for MIBR.
You know what's important about this round and what this signifies? We've already broken the cycle of the phase.
Yeah, we've got 2 consecutive rounds there for MIBR. Yeah. They've done it.
They've done it. They're not, because it was going MIBR, W7M, MIBR, W7M, and I was thinking, oh man, I've seen this before. But no, they've broken the curse. And now this half could break the curse as well, because you never know how things change when the defense and the attack are switched over, and Consulate is a map that you would typically expect the attackers to do a bit better on, so that does straight away put W7M on the back foot, I think. MIBR, I think they'll have an interesting attack, and I really want to see that bulletproof drone that we spoke about again. Traders has been put on Sledge instead of Ash. He was playing a lot of Ash yesterday, so won't be doing that direct primary entry. And actually with Felipox on the Zafir, he's not really on secondary entry either. He's taking on that supportive role to do a lot of opening up of floors and things like that, which is very common, very needed. So, yeah, I mean, it's not going to be on the garage site to start things off. So that's not quite the same. They're actually going to the split site.
Yeah, split being chosen here by W7M. Obviously got a reason for that. I quite like the lineup that they're bringing. I enjoy the pulse. I think it's a really good information gathering tool here on Consulate, just due to how small the map really is. Although no Castle, no Aruni, do question if they are going to be able to keep control of those key areas for long enough. But Panico gathering quite a bit of intel very early on. His Herd's going to go for a cheeky little run out and fly his way out of the window. Maybe, maybe not. Seems as though it's certainly on the cards as all the doors seemingly prepped. But instead, just going to play things safe. They've recognized where the push is coming from and they can now act accordingly.
I think that's the smartest way to go about it. They knew where those players on the rappel were, but none of them were really in positions conducive to assuming success for the defenders if they were to jump out. It would have taken a bit more effort for them, and I think the risk outweighed the reward. So it's much better for them to rotate down, prepare themselves closer to the site, especially with the cardiac sensor, because that can come in much more handy later on in the round once the attackers have moved in towards the site. Because naturally you would expect the plant to be made in the upstairs of the two sites in tellers as opposed to archives. So having that gadgetry available to you downstairs in the basement later on is so much more useful, and that's what we're seeing right now.
This is what I talk about when I say that Pulse is such a great information gathering tool, because Panico is for all intents and purposes on the basement there, and he's able to spot out people on that top floor. That's just massive for him and his team, especially with the way that Zed pinging works now, because it just gives you a really good idea as to where these players are. We can see the solid intel onto that player there, and it's actually going to result in a little bit of action coming in his way, but Raps is going to take the advantage of it. He's going to say, thanks for telling everyone where I was. You just got everyone to peek me and I picked myself up 2 kills.
Yeah, not too shabby at all, and that means MIBR looking strong on the attack so far. Just under a minute remaining, but Felipox will be the next to be punished. And that means that, well, I don't actually know what he had as far as lifelines remaining, and the soft breaches have been destroyed. Falls the next one to go down, so all of a sudden, things evened out. And MIBR don't have a ton of time to suddenly think, aha, here's where this threat is coming from. What should we do about it? Oh, that C4 could be perfectly placed, and it is. Off-Trades just walked straight over it, and that means the diffuser has been dropped. That'll have to be recollected by MIBR, and it looks like Raps is the one to do that as he goes for the plant on the desk. Panico looking for the information on that player, and he's deciding to run up himself. A second C4 doesn't quite catch anybody, but Panico will be punished now. Redux and Raps in a better position for this post-plant situation, as Guy is the only man remaining from W7M. And look, they're both upstairs. They're both on the top floor. He's going to run up, but he's a 3 armor, and he's going to be giving a lot of sound cues as he does that. Looking to push forward. He can't get anything though. Reduct punishes him, and MIBR take the round.
MIBR doing a great job there of getting the diffuser down, baiting out a lot of that utility. Picture perfect plant spot on top of the table to boot, and they've started off their defensive phase, sorry, their attacking phase, as well as they were ended their defensive phase. They've done it exceptionally well. 5 rounds to 2 now, 1 round away from confirming a map point. MIBR look pretty dangerous here. W7M left to find a little bit of surety in the side pick instead of going to the split, which, I'll be honest, I think it was a bit ambitious. They're going to take us down to Garage. A little bit more predictable. We should really see a better W7M down here.
6 picking onto Jackal, interesting, and I think this is something we've seen a few times over the course of the weekend, where teams will do that when they know the enemy team is going to be roaming, and that's very popular here. You don't see very many turtle defenses. You don't see a lot of really anchor heavy defenses, so having a Jackal can be very useful to these attacking teams. They've also decided to bring the Twitch, which is something that we questioned W7M on their decision to do back in round number 1. And it wasn't so much that the Twitch on her own was something to question. It was more the combination of operators that W7M brought. But what she is incredibly useful for is being able to get rid of certain utility. And, you know, that could be, for example, in this case, maybe a mute jammer, maybe Evil Eyes. She's also bringing smokes as well. So there are 6 smokes in hand for MIBR, which could really help them out if they decide to go in for, well, surprise, surprise, a smoke plant. And I think it would be kind of ludicrous to assume they wouldn't do that when they have that utility available to them. Wow, Raps.
Raps 10 and 2 in showcase there mid-round. I'll say what, it's worth it when the guy is 10 and 2. You've got to give him props. That sort of a performance. Well, Off-Trades has got in himself already in service corridor, looking to pressure. The breach has, I believe, been opened off the back of that sound cue. Panico inside of cafeteria. He's obviously got the Toxic Babe canisters, but these being forced out of him exceptionally early. Not even 2 minutes remaining on the clock. A little bit over, 2.5. And, well, he's already tossed one of them out there.
2. He's used 2. I don't know when the first one was used, but in the counter, it had only 1 left in pocket. Which is crazy. There's the last one. So now MIBR know that they don't need to worry about that anymore. Panico's going to be getting the first kill, but Felipox returns in kind. Panico taken straight out as well. It's a backwards and forwards. Guy the next one to full. MIBR just getting aggressive. They do have Fool's DBNO'd, and that means the defuse is cold right now. But with so much control over the spacing, although as I say that, Kurtz comes around and gets a kill for himself. And adding 2 more on the end there means W7M turn the fates around, and they take this round. But wow, without Kurtz, I think that would have fallen very much into MIBR's hands.
It was a very confusing moment there when Raps got a kill onto somebody outside of yellow door. And you were like, hang on a minute, Raps is attacking in this. It's like, how is that kill happening? But it just spoke to the sheer aggression that we saw on the side of W7M in an attempt to try and retake onto the site, which they did in that circumstance. I think there was a bit of a confusing push from MIBR. They didn't waste any time, but they just didn't have that killer instinct there in that round. There was a lot of kills that went off untraded, as we see in the replays here. And I guess you could say Raps got a bit unfortunate, and if he wins that engagement onto those yellow stairs, at least the second one, then maybe we could have seen Felipox revived in the round, Falls revived in the round, progress a little bit from there on out. But W7M gets a much needed round.
Yeah, they really needed to add that on because MIBR at that point had 3 rounds in a row. And when you've had the constant backwards and forwards, and then suddenly it looks like one team starting to take the momentum away, that's where you really want to stunt that to make yourself at the very least feel like you have a chance of still being in this game. So up to the top 4, and this will be the first time that W7M have come here in this series. This is a similar setup to what we saw back in the Liquid game earlier on, although it wasn't Liquid who did this defense, it was Ints who did, where you kind of lean into the Doc Jaeger, most likely a yellow stairs hold. I'd be very surprised if they weren't doing a yellow stairs hold. And you also bring the Rook along as well. I don't know where they're going to play the Rook, but the old school place to play him was down in the basement where you could impact up and hold the angle onto the meeting windows. Whether or not he actually does that, I don't know, but I guess we'll find out.
Raps is roaming dangerously underneath. Can see if he can find any advantage. Of course, all of that soft destruction on Ash available as well means that he can work some nice reverse angles to get some good intel from his teammates. He can try and shift people into dangerous lines of fire. Kurtz got plenty of ADSs at the top of these yellow stairs, obviously placing a large priority on holding onto that. Herds has seen a great deal of damage. I think maybe vertically through the floor. I'm not too sure where that was exactly coming from. Perhaps the top of Spiral. It looks as though that's an area that he's being particularly cautious about. Tons of intel on the side of MIBR. They've still got plenty of drones alive. In fact, they've only lost 1 drone, I believe. And, of course, the 0 as well.
Yeah, that should give them a lot of understanding of how W7M have decided to play. There isn't actually that much pressure onto the yellow stairs, which is where Kurtz is placed. Look, again, someone's forgotten their Rook armor. I'm gonna have words with this team after we're done with this series. But right now, they're just looking to get rid of as many drones as possible. Herds is in the position to just heal Kurtz up should he take any damage. So they want to hold really strong on this yellow stairs, but a lot of the focus from MIBR is on CEO. Off-Trade is going to be the first one to go down. That's the sledge removed, and there isn't a trade straight after.
Could be a dangerous position for Raps to find himself in here. If he gets the timing right, he's going to eat a face full of lead. And unfortunately for Raps, he does. Vals finds one onto Panico, however, doing something for MIBR. But look at these Toxic Babe canisters. It is a wall of smoke inside a CEO as Kurtz is battling to make his smoke seen. Well, Falls isn't going to be looking to repel on him because that would almost certainly be a little bit of a death trap. Felipox has found his way in and got himself into a gunfight, which was pretty winnable. Kills have traded, but MIBR have been on the right end of things. There's plenty of time for them to make something happen here as Padre looks to rotate his way all the way in, or maybe even all the way downstairs. It looks as though he's going to go for the full flank. Is Falls going to be given the space to get himself in time? There's going to be a flank drone on his position, a C4 in pocket, but the plant likely going to get confirmed before it is thrown. Does he get outside? Yes, he does. Nail-biting stuff there from W7M, and MIBR get away with it by the skin of their teeth. Kills going in either direction do leave us, however, in a 1 versus 1, and plenty of time to take stock. Still 25 or so seconds left remaining on this diffuser. Gonna go for the disable straight away, looking to bait, looking to switch, not got a great deal of health, so can't make this mistake more than once. Trying to stick, but Fowls knows better. MIBR secure that round.
In my opinion, it was very peculiar decision-making from Kurtz and Herds to push into CEO, knowing that those players were on the rappel and basically walk to their death. Because that relinquished control of top yellow, it relinquished control of connector, and there was nothing really to suggest that they were going to win that out. Other than, oh, well, you know, there's 2 of us and we know that there's 1 guy on rappel. Because Reduct was not far away either, and he's the one who came and took the yellow stairs control once they moved out of the way, and it just seemed like walking straight into a death trap for really no good reason at all. And then that was really hard because Guy was back in meeting and he had to continue to play a bit more reserved because he also didn't want to walk into the death trap, and he didn't have the support from any of his teammates at that point because they'd just died. To me, that was just a very strange moment in that round, and I think it really helped contribute to the fact that W7M didn't win it. There was a lot of power on the, on the CEO rappel area. I mean, obviously that's where Falls got the post-plant win from as well. So overall, kind of strange from W7M, and now MIBR are on match point, so they don't have much time to clean up their act.
Yeah, you've really got to feel sorry for Padron there. He made his best attempt at getting into a position to toss that C4, and had it been, a second, not even sooner, the round would have been entirely different. But MIBR just a little bit too good at taking advantages here, and that seems to be the story of the night, is that whenever they've seen that advantage, they've been very quick to take it. And I'm not sure if it's because they're able to play a little bit more dynamically because of the addition of off trades as the free agent at the moment, but he certainly seems to be at the brunt of a lot of the pressure that they are looking to apply, attacking onto a split bomb site and already getting plenty of lines of sight open inside of the garage, pressuring the cafeteria a little bit. It's just going to make it really difficult for anyone on the side of W7M to make a rotation.
Yeah, lots of work being done by MIBR. No kills yet, which I wouldn't say is too strange for these two teams. It's not like this is a series that has been defined by super early opening kills, and I'd also say it's been very backwards and forwards as well. In a lot of cases, you can usually tell which team has been doing much better in the opening engagements just because there'll be a really strong lean one way or the other, but this hasn't seemed that way at all. MIBR taking the time to set up their drones so they have strong eyes on what is going on downstairs, and it's a very similar operator setup what WM are doing as they did last time they came here. Kurt's getting the opening kill. That's on to Felipox, so not being able to use that Jackal track is probably going to be quite influential. A nice peek there from Raps, but he knows that there's going to be more behind him. He's in a risky spot as MIBR start to move into the site. This is a peculiar place to go as well. Great kill onto off trades from Kurtz with the shotgun, and now he's just looking for another one, but he is swung on, and MIBR have the opportunity to start placing down this diffuser. This isn't what WM were expecting. They were expecting a plant to be upstairs theirs. So the opportunity to use things like the C4 not quite set up how they wanted. It's a backwards and forwards, and now it's a 2 versus 1 for W7M. Make that a 1 versus 1. It's Gi versus Raps. There's no drones. There's 3 somewhere, but basically this is all down to face checking. Raps wins it out, and MIBR complete out their match point, and they take the game.
Oh, beautiful stuff on the replay there as well, shooting the C4 out mid-air, or at least as it landed. MIBR doing a cracking job in that last round, providing a lot of lateral pressure onto that bomb site and not really paying much attention to anything that was going on above them, just storming through, getting the diffuser down and grabbing a couple of kills. It really has been the story of the day. We've seen so many plants go down